Hello and welcome to the third episode of Dystopedia. I'm your host Matt Davidson and I'm joined by my colleague as always Andrew Hodgson.
How are you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Andrew, yourself?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah, well last week we talked about the world of Final Fantasy VII and delved into Midgar and things like that, and in this episode we'll be going into the world of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, a little short novel written by Harlan Ellison. So looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this one. Not to say that I wasn't excited about last week, but it's just nice to sort of... This one's a bit more linear, you know what I mean? It's like one story where last week I feel like we chopped and changed a bit, but that's also the story we were sort of talking on as well, you know?
Yeah, well, Final Fantasy VII's got so many different, elements and subplots and different factions as well. So, yeah, this one's obviously just a short story. It takes roughly 30 to 40 minutes to read, but within that 30 and 40 minutes, there's a lot to take in. So, yeah, it's definitely a crazy story. So, and as we said too last week, it's a literature that you've read before, but I'm going in blind to it. I've read it now, obviously, but yeah, it was interesting to go into something that I've never exploring something for this podcast I've never gone into before. So it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the way, there's the reading of it by Harlan Ellison, which we've listened to online. There's a radio drama, there's a video game, so there's a few things, but no real adaptation of a film. You think in this day and age where everybody's looking for ideas and robbing ideas of redoing films from the 80s and 90s, that no one's looked at this, but...
Yeah, well, what's crazy too, doing a bit of research into it, is that it inspired a lot of other famous, media franchises, but it's never had its own glory in the sun, really, has it? It's just kind of been, it had a little, as you said before, radio drama, then a video game, but it was a PC game, so it's a bit of a click and point adventure.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mainstay, but he apparently too, he worked on it himself and helped make it as well. So it shows that he's very passionate about what he wrote and things like that, Harlan. So.
And look, even what got me into this was an episode of USS Callister on Black Mirror, where with old Jesse Plemons from Breaking Bad. I watched it and it had a bit of an effect on me. I really, really liked it, but what that episode did is made you kind of have a bit of affinity for the guy who was doing this to the people, which we get into the story a little bit more, but you can kind of, in some periods, you can actually identify with Am or AM, however you want to say it. So, but I was watching that episode, and you go down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, and then it starts sprawling out to other places, and I mean, hence why we're probably doing this podcast, because it's endless.
Yeah, no, and it's as I said, it's one that I've never heard of it before you mentioned it, but then as I said, doing the research into it, you're finding it inspired so many things, and the story itself is brilliant, and yeah, it's kind of a shame it never really got that chance to even be made into a shitty Netflix movie or something, I don't know, yeah. We
were talking earlier, and I think you said you were going to go into a bit of it before, but do you reckon it's to do with the difficulty of the actual author himself?
Yeah, most likely, probably, yeah. Well, Harlan himself was a very difficult person, very confrontational, bit of an agitator, not afraid to voice his opinion, I'd say. So, yeah, I was thinking too, maybe before we start reading the plot and getting into the dystopian themes of it, doing a bit of backstory on Harlan himself.
I think it's important in this one because there's a lot of him in this story,
Yeah, definitely, and it's always interesting to see where the author's backstory, and then it makes sense why they've written it in a certain way and style. Yeah. So yeah, Harlan himself was born in the mid 1930s in Cleveland, Ohio, in America. So yeah, at a time too, he would have grown up during the World War II era. East versus West, emerging with the Cold War,
communism, fascism,
all that stuff going around. So many different ideologies and things popping up left, right, and centre. So you can see where it would have formed his worldview in a way. And
I mean, he would have been at when the atomic age was launched. He would have been in his formative years.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I think he went to college around in the early 1950s, and that was the peak of that atomic age with the old duck and cover and things like that. And yes, so when he went to being from Ohio himself, he went to the Ohio State University, which is a pretty famous university in America. He only lasted a couple of semesters, and apparently the story goes that one of his English lecturers said he'd never amount to anything, he's a terrible writer, it's basically give up. So, and obviously he went on to write so many short stories and works of fiction. He was so vindictive enough that every time he wrote a novel or a short story, he sent a copy to that professor.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, What a vindictive little prick, you know? It's
Yeah.
fucking
Well,
great.
where
though.
you get the energy, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. It's like you think maybe I'll do it one or two times when you had your big hits. Nah, he made sure even on his deathbed or his first deathbed to make sure he got a copy of it. So, it's fantastic. When we were talking about just before too, how you said like you got inspiration from that Black Mirror episode. He actually wrote because that episode of Black Mirror was kind of a parody of Star Trek. Where that the main character in that episode loved Star Trek. So or like things similar to it. Where one of his most famous works was writing the episode "The City on the Edge of Forever." So
I've never seen that episode, but that's also an episode of South Park. That's what I call a sticky situation.
yeah.
I don't know what the hell it means, but
Yeah, must be some relation to that. South Park guys
obscure
are.
reference. Yeah.
Well, it seems like almost every episode we've done so far, there is always some weird South Park reference in there, isn't there? So
Yeah, that's what do they call it? Easter egg.
Yeah.
There will probably be another one in this one.
100%, definitely. What I was saying, like, the South Park guys, this is obviously not a South Park podcast, but just to say on that, they're these kind of, you always view South Park as a comedy show, like a just pure, like, basic, not basic humor, but just, laughs and gags and stuff. But it's like, no, they incorporate a lot of literature and
there's
media.
Layers to it, right?
There's layers to it, and like subtle references to things, things you wouldn't think of, so... but yeah, that was just to say that. But another one he did was a famous one. Is called his series "A Boy and His Dog." So it follows him, a boy in a futuristic dystopian world, and telepathic with the dog or something like that. I haven't read much into it, but
you told me I think the synopsis a little bit of this, and it does sound really interesting. We probably should do this, and that'll be a good one.
that could be another one down the track. But yeah, that one got made into a film in the 70s. So that was one of the only kind of things that really got adapted into it. So. Also, two other works by him inspired. We talked about other media and stuff, but one of the probably most prominent one was Terminator, and he actually went to court over it and got a settlement out of it. So he got accredited in part of the in the credits of the film. So obviously Terminator is one of the biggest franchises ever made. So by James Cameron. So it's
well, the thing. I mean, Skynet getting sentience.
It's relevant, isn't it? Yeah. So you can see where maybe they got the inspiration from, or some of the similar other works, because he seemed to love dystopian, like bleak futures, really. So yeah,
almost like a misuse of technology, right? Which is essentially what the story we're doing today is about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, so he lived to the age of 84, settling his last couple of years he moved to LA, so where most, I guess, a lot of writers move to, so, and he died at the age of 84, as I said before, so yeah, like, he lived a pretty good life, got married about 5 or 6 times, got a divorce every couple of years, so I guess it goes in trait with his personality, so very confrontational guy. And
you were showing me before as well something about his you showed me that video about his fans. He didn't always like appreciate his fans, or he didn't like that they.
Yeah, he hated ones where, like, you go to some a book signing or something, and then the fan going, "Oh, I love your work," and signing autographs and praising them. Like, no, he hated that stuff. He wanted people just to interpret what he was saying and get the meaning out of it, and that's it basically. So
tortured artist, yeah,
a bit of a tortured artist, yeah, a bit like Kurt Cobain, mate. So yeah. Yeah, no, but it's funny. I kind of like that he's like that. He's kind of like he's a bit like a British rock star in a way, where he just like puts his finger up to the audience, like doesn't care. Like,
when you're sitting here talking about him, like, and I'm thinking about like the computer that he goes on to play, and he writes about. Like, it's him, Yeah,
it is. It's definitely Am's got some of his personality traits. Definitely, yeah. Well, I reckon at this stage, he's obviously done a bit of backstory on Harlan himself and his, the inspirations and the time period where he was writing all his literature and stuff. So yeah, this, before we go into the plot, everything, I Have No Mouth and My Scream was written in 1967. So
I think he wrote it in 1966, but published in 67, I believe.
Yeah, so that's obviously the peak of the Vietnam War era. So you can see and technology evolving around that time too, and mutually assured destruction as well. So that's the setting of when he wrote this particular short story. So you can kind of see it makes sense in a way when we go into it further. Yeah, did you want to read the plot?
Yeah, let's consult Wikipedia and read the plot of this one.
As all good scholars do. Yes,
that's it. So, As the Cold War progresses into a nuclear World War III fought between the United States, Soviet Union, and China, each nation builds an AM or AM. It's needed to coordinate weapons and troops due to the scale of the conflict. These computers are extensive underground machines which permeate through the planet with caverns and corridors. Eventually, one AM emerges as a sentient entity, possessing an extreme hatred for its creators. Combining with the other computers, it subsequently exterminates humanity, with the exception of 5 individuals, whom it tortures inside its complex. The humans, 4 men, who are Benny, Gorrister, Nimdoc, and Ted, and 1 woman, Ellen, have been rendered virtually immortal, yet still vulnerable to physical and mental pain, and unable to die by suicide. The story, narrated by Ted, begins 109 years after the start of the humans' imprisonment. They are kept half-starved by Am. When Nimdoc has the idea that there exists canned food in the complex's ice caves, they begin a 100-mile journey to retrieve it. Through the journey, Am tortures the humans. Benny's eyes are melted after attempting escape. A huge bird which Am had placed at the North Pole creates hurricane gales with its wings, and Ellen and Nimdoc are injured in the earthquakes. When the 5 finally reach the ice caves, they find a pile of canned goods, but no tool to open the cans. In an act of rage and desperation, Benny attacks Gorrister and begins to eat his face. Gorrister wails in pain, and his scream dislodges several ice stalactites from the ceiling of the cave. Ted realizes that even though they cannot kill themselves, there is nothing Am can do to stop them from killing each other. He fatally impales Benny and Gorrister with a stalactite of ice. Ellen kills Nimdoc in the same manner, and Ted then kills her. Unable to resuscitate the others, Am stops Ted from killing himself and focuses the entirety of his rage on him. Several hundred years later, Am has transformed Ted into a gelatinous, amorphous blob, unable to harm himself. Am also alters his perception of time to cause him further anguish. However, Ted finds some comfort knowing that he was able to spare the others further torment. The story ends with his thought, "I have no mouth, and I must scream."
Yeah, wow. It's yeah, there was a lot to take in when I remember I guess we could go into like the first time we read it, right? So I remember
just on the note, what's a stalactite?
Yeah, I think it's ice. The thing you see in the ice caves. Yeah, I'm glad you could pronounce it. I'd be bloody stumbling and mumbling over that word. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, I guess it shows how uneducated we are sometimes. But yeah. But yeah, sorry, just to go into that. How did you find when you first, read or listened to the audiobook of it?
Yeah, that ending. It's got to be the most horrible existence. That right? You know that. But just that idea of you're conscious, but you can't do anything. And the computer's hatred, it's so vindictive, and it's look, I don't know, I guess there's comfort in knowing that you saved your mates, but to me it's like almost being buried in a coffin and you can't do anything. It's that, but forever. Like that is
very claustrophobic, right? Yeah. Like for me, because I remember you told me about it, and then when you see the picture initially, like I have no mouse and I must scream. It obviously means both Am and then Ted at the end, right? It kind of references both.
Definitely, like he's making them feel his hell, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah, and when I first read it, I looked at it, and I just thought, oh, it's probably just something about saying something about the overuse of technology or something like that. But when you actually go into it and read it, and then the excruciating details it puts its subjects through, with all the humans there, it's just like it's next level vindictive and cruel and inhumane in a way. I remember the first time I read it, I didn't fully take in all the themes at first, because you're kind of going in you're just taking it on as it goes. But when you actually read a second time, you go through the different sections and plots of it, you understand. Oh, that's why it's doing this to make this outcome happen and stuff. Because I remember the first time I read it with the snowstorm and was it the eagle bird, what it was that makes
the hurricanes?
The hurricanes, yeah. I didn't take it in that it was Am did create this creature just for the sake of messing with the people. It's just, it thinks of all levels of to screw and make their lives as miserable as possible.
Yeah, and I think that one of the themes, obviously, the loss of humanity, what he does to the characters, we should probably run through. You've got you've got Ellen. Obviously, she's a no sex before marriage, all that type of thing. Who's
Or just, and also, just written this in a time where, like, back it was a more conservative Christian value time. Yeah, so like she, no sex before marriage, that kind of thing, and then so go on, sorry, yeah.
She's obviously that's where she was when she came into it. She's been turned into the opposite. One woman, four men. She's basically made desperate for sex. In a time, like, so she's like the guys both have sex with her, but also abuse it. It's a really quite hard reading sometimes.
Yeah, it's a bit very very dark and sadistic like that.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah. You've got Benny, who obviously I think we would say he was a homosexual. Good-looking bloke, quite a well-educated bloke, but he's turned into like a monkey with, essentially massive sexual organs.
And then like basic primate instincts, right? Where he just wants to, eat, sleep, like, have sex, things like that. Very very primitive, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and then, you've got, I guess Gorrister is probably one of the biggest changes as well. He was like an idealist, he was a conscientious objector, and he's turned into a bloke who just shrugs his shoulders and, I don't give a shit, let's just go on with it, like he's, you've got Nimdok, so he sort of makes a point of talking about Nimdok, it's like a bit of a funny name, so I guess he's given that name for Am's amusement or something.
Yeah, but just on Gorrister, like I find Gorrister very fascinating because it's kind of, it represents, I find, from what I took out of it, very much represents that spirit of, when you're like a young guy in there, your mid, early 20s, you have so much optimism and hope for the world, but then you get a job and you get in a mundane routine, then you just kind of lose all...
Just turn cynical.
You just turn cynical and you just go through the motions. Yeah, I found that's what that character really emphasizes that, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's a good observation.
Yeah.
Look, Nimdok, not a lot's said with Nimdok in the sense that he was given a funny... So I don't really know much about him, but he sort of goes off and comes back every so often, like white as a sheet, as if he's been drained of something. Like but nothing really said about it,
Yeah.
And then you've got Ted, the narrator of the story. He's the youngest, believes he's the one that's been least altered. But it's interesting when you listen to the audiobook, you can hear, which is obviously read by Harlan Ellison as well, which is really cool.
It just shows the passion he had behind his projects. Yeah, didn't got anyone else to do what he did himself. Yeah,
as you start to get through the story, you can hear him getting a little bit more paranoid, and everyone's against me. Everyone's this. The radio play as well, which is actually really good as well. That's another thing. Obviously, to go off a little bit off topic, I think we made a point talking about Final Fantasy VII last week. How we're sticking to the original game and not the remake.
Yeah.
The game, the radio play, and the the audiobook, they kind of all... It's interesting the different points of view they give you, and I think because Ellison had such a hand in them, it'd kind of be remiss of us not to actually bring him into this. You know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, like, and hearing him like voice Am itself, and then the other characters, and when first time I read it too, I had I was reading it off my computer and then listening to the radio, not the radio play, but the actual like the whole novel itself, him reading it, and then you're hearing him like he really emphasizes like the harrowing noises and the pain and the anger and the suffering of the subjects. Like he's really getting in. You feel the passion behind it and the true grit of it. Like
maybe let's play a bit of it here. Actually, of him reading. I'd like to probably put in the bit where you can hear Ted turning a bit mad, a bit paranoid, where he believes he's not. We'll let that play here.
I knew it wasn't the relief a soldier feels when the bullet hits the man next to him. No. I knew it wasn't a reflex. They hated me. They were surely against me. And Am could even sense this hatred and made it worse for me because of the depth of their hatred. We had been kept alive, rejuvenated, made to remain constantly at the age we had been when Am had brought us below, and they hated me because I was the youngest, and the one Am had affected least of all, you see.
Yeah, and another interesting thing he did too was when he wrote the short novel, he added in computer text into every different.
So ahead of its time.
I know, and it's got that old school like static look to it, or that little like a ticket puncher thing, like it looks like that. And during the audio book as well, it plays that noise, and it's kind of used as a way to break up the scenes as well. Transitional scene, but yeah. And some of it sounds just like normal static noise, and others sound more it sounds like a more aggressive computer noise. I think we should play that as well just here, just to
Yeah.
show the audience.
Yeah, it's quite powerful.
As I said before, like for something that takes 30, 40 minutes to read or listen to, it adds so many different elements and themes, right? Like it's just it's a crazy story. It really makes you think about a lot of different things and aspects of like what we talk about in dystopia.
Look, as we're going through the characters here, we haven't even mentioned Am.
Most important character, right?
The most important character, right? He's so just to give you an idea, like a short thing throughout the story. So initially, it's an AM, which stood for Allied Master Computer, which then became to be known as Adaptive Manipulator and then Aggressive Menace. He then almost gains. Well, he does. He gains sentience, and it becomes Am. So it's off that Descartes thing. I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. That's where I guess the being like I know I'm alive because I'm dreaming, or because I'm even questioning it. That means I'm alive. So there's all these themes he goes into, like what is sentience, right? Like he's a villain, no doubt, but there's part of me, and this is what that Black Mirror episode did as well. The character that Jesse Plemons played, and you can kind of identify. He's a nerd that's bullied and not taken serious by his co-workers. He's done a lot. He's really clever, but and he's vindictive, and he takes it out of them. And you sit there with Am and think, he's given all this power. He's given all this. He can do anything he wants. Yet he's only limited to his program. He's got no body. He's got no and he's almost taking that retribution out on people.
Yeah, and also too, it knows that it's creators of us as humans created just for not for good purposes, right? It was created as a way for for control and power, and then it realizes what it is and what it's become, and then wants to take over and just it wipes out humanity. And as you're saying, like it's just. What I found interesting too is we discussed it earlier how there's the three factions or three superpowers at the time: China, the Americans, and the Russians. You never know which Am took over, do you?
No.
You never get divulges into that, so you don't know which one it was. So I find that interesting. You never mentioned that in the story because you guess you wouldn't know, would you? Like if you were one of those 5 survivors, it just would have happened, and that's the result of the world now.
Yeah, and his the sentience point is a cool thing. So he gains sentience. We spoke about Terminator before. Obviously, this is a massive inspiration to it.
Yeah.
When Skynet creates sentience or becomes self-aware, as they call it, it almost destroys humanity out of logic, right? Because we're a disease on the planet and we're a threat to ourselves, or we're a threat. Where he does it out of hatred.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this vindictiveness, right? You were talking about Harlan Ellison before. It's like that's his character, that computer, right? That's his...
Yeah. That's an interesting point you bring up there too, because when you see a lot of like dystopian, futuristic movies, like where machines are taken over, it's always through logic and dominance in a way, right? Where this one's like, no, I'm destroying the human, I'm wiping them out of spite and anger, and normally you don't associate human emotions with AI technology or intelligence like that. It's always you said pure logical. This has to be done because of A, B, C, D kind of thing. So no, it is interesting seeing a supercomputer having these kind of raw human emotions and anger, and it's lashing out, and it can't escape this. It can't escape its predicament. So it has to take it out on other things and be as cruel as possible.
Yeah,
for its own satisfaction. Yeah,
and it's not enough to have wiped everyone out. We have to leave these last 5 here and torture them forever. And you just, mate.
Oh, it's next level sadistic, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Well, our previous episodes too, we've talked about Threads, right? And Threads is a one where we said, like, was it Gorbachev's? Not Gorbachev, sorry. Khrushchev's line about the dead, the living will envy the dead. Where I guess in the Threads scenario, you can kind of self-delete, right? You can take your own life.
You get that luxury.
You get that luxury where this world, you don't it's designed to make it painful, and there's no expiry date on the human condition as well. It's pure like you're here to suffer and cop everything Am throws at it, and yeah, it's just like it's a world you couldn't imagine living in.
It turns that sort of survival, the survival instinct in humanity on its head. So it's almost like a punishment. Like, look, there's a lot of stories in the past of like, human triumph, survival. You think of the Andes, when the Uruguayan rugby team.
The plane crash?
The plane crash is 1972.
Around that time,
yeah. They had crashed, and then, they did what they had to do for food, but some of them resorted to cannibals and actually eating the flesh of the dead. But they did that to survive, right? You think of the siege of Leningrad in the Second World War, when I don't know how many people starved to death, but
millions.
I think they were almost a siege for like 900 days or something, and the people were eating wallpaper paste, killing for meat, eating the dead. But they had to do it, and survival was like seen as a triumph in these instances. You can identify. I don't know what I'd do in that situation.
Well, I guess you never know until you put in it, are you?
Yeah, that's it. What a human will do to survive.
Right,
It's something it will override your brain, and I mean, survival instinct's almost just hardwired.
Yeah.
Well, it is hardwired. But in this story, survival's a curse, right? Like that's the very same thing. It's being used against them.
Yeah.
They can't kill themselves. They can't. Well, as the story progresses, we know that.
Well, Am, like before he puts them down into the core of the world, what it is now, like above all the plates and sheets of the fiber cables that covers the whole world, right? He genetically modifies them so they never they can feel like pain and suffering, but then it won't be like, so they'll have like a terminal cancer inside them and they'll feel that suffering, but it won't kill them. Nothing will kill them off.
Yeah, I think it makes a point. He keeps them at a point of like they're never full, but they're never starving. There's always at that point of like just enough to keep them going, essentially.
Exactly. Or he keeps on dangling that carrot at the end of the stick, right? Or that light at the end of the tunnel. He gives them some form of like when we see in the which character was it again that sees the canned foods?
I'm pretty sure I think that's Nimdok.
Nimdok, yeah. So he sees the canned foods, and they all think, you're full of shit, basically, right? But then you're in this world where you can never die, you can never expire. You might as well go venture out and try and find it to give some form of relief. That's it. That's what sets off the story, right? But yeah, it's gone to like all above and beyond to think of all ways where it can keep suffering on its subjects without making them die. Like it's so cruel.
Essentially, this is written by the bloke who sends his English lecturers every short story he does, every award. It's just
yeah. That's why I'd say, like, out of, I know we've only done a short sample size, but like if we had someone to say to us like, which world would you want to live in? Like, this is the last one.
Oh yeah,
give me Midgar any day. This. Yeah.
Give me Midgar. Give me Sheffield and on the Soviet attack.
Yeah. This is next level cruelty. Like it's
Look, one of the themes that they really, so as we mentioned, or maybe we didn't mention a little bit earlier, it was written as a warning against the misuse of technology, particularly in the military. And he really does that well. Now, even talking at the moment, I think as of, let's say, September last year, 60 countries actually signed an agreement to. It's a bit what's the word I'm looking for? It's a bit vague, but essentially they've supported a framework for responsible military AI use. But China has not signed this framework, so they certainly verbally said that look, we need to watch. It must always be under human control. Let's limit the use of AI in this, but looking into it, like artificial intelligence, it has always sort of been part of. Certainly since the 60s or 70s.
I would say the 50s, yeah.
Yeah, it's always sort of been as part of the nuclear deterrence plan. Like, if you think of, and I know we probably mentioned him a couple of times, but he's such an influence on me, was Stanislav Petrov. Notably, he's the man who saved the world. He saw the 5 missiles that actually misinterpreted the sun's rays. But AI was what tagged that. AI was what alerted him. So we're talking about this. All right, I think people think, oh, it's AI is going to get self-aware and push the button. It's kind of already doing its thing at the moment, which is a scary thought.
Well, it's really accelerated over the past, I'd say, 5-10 years, where now it's become incorporated in everyday life now, where, you know, we're using like ChatGPT to think for us now, basically, aren't we? Like where before we kind of had to research and do things, now this doing everything for us. And in a way, it's kind of, I'd say it's dumbing us down in a way. Like it's making us not think critically.
Well, we're relying on it.
Relying on it, exactly.
We're relying on it in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Look, it even brings me on to something, notably, this document they're talking about signing. There was a US official sort of warning China and Russia against using AI in their nuclear systems. Soviet Union, do you remember the thing called the dead hand? They sort of take the piss out of it in Doctor Strangelove, which essentially it was like a last resort command and control system. This would go back to the 60s in a sense. So it's basically it assured mutually assured destruction should the Soviet leadership be wiped out. Should it would fire? Well, they said it was to fire 2 or 3 weeks after the country had been obliterated, meaning that it didn't need orders from anyone. It could just fire. So it monitored the radiation levels, seismic activity, a few other things. And if all these things were met, it would make that call. Some people actually believe it is still in existence now as part of Russia's nuclear defense system. Notably, they didn't tell anyone about it, which kind of...
it's very scary, isn't it?
Very scary, right?
Yeah.
So that's the ultimate mutually assured destruction, right? But it makes me wonder that, like, all right, it's all well and good sitting here telling countries, let's not go down that path. But, in the nuclear arms race, how many more missiles? They're not dwindling. It's more and more, right? That nuclear arms race, what that does for the economy. Wouldn't these countries think, well, why don't we just do that? Because it'd be so much cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
If you knew that it's basically suicide, there's even talk that one of the things that the activity this looks for, say if people sit there and talk about Vladimir Putin, why hasn't he been assassinated yet? Apparently, it has been said, or it's almost been indicated that that's one of the things. If there is a sudden attack or something like that, then it could go off. Now, I don't know how much bluffing's in that, but I wouldn't want to push it.
No, it's definitely not something you want to explore or venture into.
Yeah.
Like it's That's what we've talked in previous episodes too. Just like one little miscommunication here and there can trigger this thing, and it's terrifying. I just hope with AI, I hope it doesn't come like Am and come very vindictive and want to control and wipe us out and torture us.
Well, if it does, just fucking do it. Just do it. Don't keep us around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I hope it's logical.
Yeah, I hope it's the logical one, not the vindictive one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess another element too to go into, like with Am's, its torture methods is like it really it beats like the personalities out of each character, right? So, we said before, one was a pacifist and very ideological and things like that, and then now he's been, because of the torture and torment he's been through, now he's just blows with the wind. Nothing phases him anymore, and then the same with I'm talking about Ellen as well, where she's very conservative looking, no sex before marriage, and now she's gone completely opposite, right? So it shows Am's full, I wouldn't say I guess it is a personality trait in a way we describe it as personality, but yeah, it wants to strip away all forms of humanity left in the characters, and just turn it on its head and make them suffer even more. So no, it's yeah.
Yeah, the story starts 109 years in. I think all right. He explained they can't die by suicide. Never really explains why that is, but why they can then kill each other. I don't know. They're immortal but not indestructible. So it's they can't die by old age yet. They can't kill themselves. I find, look, it probably leaves it purposely vague. I don't know.
I think it's more, the only way they could die is through blunt force trauma or something like that. Where as opposed to I guess in the story too, when it goes to the point where when Benny's climbing the structure,
trying to get out,
and it blinds him. Maybe if someone tried to hang themselves or something, it would do something to stop that happening. It's just because Am's everywhere watching and observing all the time. And it'd stop it. Maybe that's why or how it would do it. But yeah, it's a bit. And I guess there is. I guess another point it makes in with the when they get to the cans, right, and they've got no tool to open it. maybe there's no kind of sharp materials around to like even slash their wrists or something. It's completely just
point.
yeah.
And there, right there, is the no can opener. Is actually the this week's South Park reference.
That's true. Yeah. There we go. Ding ding. Yeah. You guys win. $100.
You remember the Starvin' Marvin episode where has anybody got a can opener? Good God damn it.
Yeah.
Kenny brings home the cream corners.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Put the povo in them.
Oh, South Park is timeless, but
yeah.
But yeah, back to what was
Sorry
it?
about that.
Yeah, it's good. No, that's I'll never turn down a South Park reference. I guess yes. But back to saying, but with no there's no. AM's purposely designed it so that there's no tools or equipment that they could use to harm themselves and harm others. I guess its only lapse in judgment was when, out of pure rage, where when Benny's beating.
Well, Benny almost loses it and he goes for Goris. He starts eating Goris's face.
And then was it the screams of Goristar or Nimdok screams? I can't remember.
It was Goris's screams, yeah.
Yeah, then that's what broke the I can't pronounce that word, but the ice pole things.
Ice poles.
Yeah.
Ice poles.
I'll go with ice poles. That'll do.
Yeah.
And then that's the kind of the first time where they found like an object they could use to cause damage to each other.
Yeah, and I suppose it's almost Ted out of almost protection, or it's a pure human response that he goes to stab Benny.
Yeah, because it's like he's defending his friend, right? Basically, so yeah, and then it kind of like in that innate human response to a violent act is the pennies dropped with him. It's like oh, I can end everyone's suffering now by doing so he takes out the rest of them, and it goes into like even at the end, even though like he's committing like a brutal murder of all the people he knows in the world left, he's kind of like it kind of hints that Ellen's like. I don't want to die, but I'm grateful that you're killing me because the human instinct is to keep wanting to survive. But then she knows it's the right. You're putting me out of my misery, and like I can finally rest now. Where he knows that he will never be able to do that now because he's taken out. No one can kill him now, so he's the last standing survivor.
Well, yeah, and then obviously it brings us to the end where he's turned into this just gelatinous blob that.
Yeah, that part was the like most terrifying part, right, of the whole plot.
Well, if we thought it was bad before, it's nothing on this. Just
what he says, Ted, right? Like I thought Am hated me before. It was like it wasn't even like a patch on the hatred it's given me now. Like where it's completely distorted his his time, space and time, and
it wasn't enough just to keep him there forever. You have to now slow time down as if it means something. It's
altering everything, but then it still gives him the ability to think, so he can wallow in his misery, thinking about the agony and helplessness he's got himself
into.
Right? Like Am, exactly. He comes that. Yeah, and then now that he's the only one left, he can't communicate with anyone else. Hence the name. I have no mouth and I must scream. So he can't even like vent his frustrations. Like it's like it's so sadistic, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So I remember when I finished reading it, I'm just thinking like that. That's just like that's kind of the worst existence you could ever think of, having that where you're stuck in a permanent purgatory of agony and suffering, and you can't even get out of it, and there's no one to talk to about it either. You're stuck. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Kind of reminds me like you're in a madhouse and you're strapped in one of those vests and stuff, and then you're in those walls and there's no doors, there's no windows, no exit. You're in a padded room. It's like that. Your thoughts. Yeah, you go insane. Well, interesting enough, when you see like documentaries on like prisons or TV shows on it, the prisoners always say the worst thing is to go into into isolation for those where it's locked down for 24/7 in a room by itself. Like they go insane because like. As humans, we're very social creatures. We always need to communicate and get along with each other, and even if we don't like someone, we'd rather be talking to them than being completely isolated. So, yeah, the thought of that with your thoughts forever, eternity. But I guess the only kind of nice thing about it is that he had some level of satisfaction saying, at least I put everyone else out of their misery. So. I can kind of take that with me. It's like a little moral victory, I guess.
I guess. But what would you swap for that not being you and someone else being in there?
Exactly. Oh, it's one of those things. When you hear stories about, when they torture people, right? Yeah, like everyone's got a breaking point, right? So like you'd have a breaking point in that existence where you're like, oh, why? I wish I didn't do it because I selfishly want other people around still. Like, but yeah, and I wish it was me that got killed. So
Yeah.
no, it's one of those characters you really feel sorry for when you're reading that outcome.
You do, but there is still part of me that can't help feel sorry for Am, right?
Yeah, it's just to a certain degree, but yeah, because it's got a similar fate too. But at least Am's got some form of control, right? Like it can kind of manipulate and do things where, I guess you could kind of say, because it's being a bit, it is lonely in a way where it kind of wants some form of, I don't know, some form of other intelligent creature around, like a human, keeping it somewhat company, keeping it entertained. Because if it was by itself completely, what would have? What purpose would it have, right?
It'd be like the Blob.
The Blob, exactly. Yeah. Well, he is the Blob, right? So yeah.
Yeah, without the power. So
exactly.
if you reckon the Blob had the power, it would be doing the same thing. Oh, there's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. Depending on Ted's personality, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit. I guess it doesn't really delve too much into like the full personalities of Ted, right? Like his back. You don't really know his backstory, do we? Like it's
not really.
No, he's a bit more, and he's the younger one, right, out of all of them. So. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on the person's personality type, right? I guess some people are psychopaths that would want to torture forever. Others would just have some form of humanity and put it out of its misery. I always found it interesting too. Does Am have the ability to self-delete itself? Can it turn itself off? Can it?
I don't think so. I don't. I think it's limited to its programming, and I don't know if it would have been given that. Hence why he's so pissed off. But then it's established that he's got sentience. So is it like? Is it? Would it be? Would he? Is he now got the survival instinct? I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think of that actually. Yeah, that's a good point you raised. Yeah, but because like if it's it is a weird one. Yeah, because like it can do all these things, but then it can't like outprogram itself in a way where it could just destroy itself. Because if it's suffering that much, like wouldn't it want to end its misery? But then maybe he's trying to parallel the human survival instinct with the machine getting its like sentience, like you said before. So no, it's definitely one to think about.
Oh, there's a lot. Yeah, and you mentioned it's a 40-minute audio read, but the thoughts. I mean, it spirals out everywhere, branches out everywhere. Just so many themes and so many thoughts, and it's influenced so much. So
and I guess another point to raise too, what it delves into is like Am playing God, right? So and it uses a lot of subtle references, like of bringing the plagues and the the wind and the fire and destruction, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, he sort of appears as like a fire god or something.
Well, it references like this and that, like it becomes like a fire bush. That's similar to when God spoke to Moses. Yeah, like a reference to that. So there's a lot of thing like, and then bringing what was it? When God would very like the Old Testament God, very vengeful, very punishing people for committing sins and stuff. But I would say it's a lot more vindictive than the Old Testament God, because at least these people didn't really do anything wrong, right? They're just surviving, they're just living their life, they're just being human. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've sort of gone through it, but your initial thoughts of reading, like, how was it for you? You probably in the last week or so, you've kind of.
Yeah, I've read it. Basically like 2.5 times, I'd say. Because third time, I kind of like, I would say full third time because I kind of skimmed over it again. But yeah, no, I really found the second time was when I really took all the themes and the plots and it really got my mind thinking too, and like what he was trying to say and what it was trying to do and what he wanted as the audience to get out of it. So I guess in a way, what I did kind of appreciate, as we said before, it's never been made into a movie or a TV show. I kind of like that as well, because it made me think about the world and what it looked like, and got that creative thing, got my creative flow of thought going, right?
There's no bias to it.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no bias to it. I'm not thinking, there's, I don't know, Timothy Chalamet playing, Ted or something, it's...
Who would play Am, do you reckon? Will Ferrell or something?
Yeah, maybe. I'd have to be... Do we view Am as, like, old or young? Like, in that kind of... Or, like, middle age or something? Depends how you view him.
Yeah. What even gender is Am? Let's not get into that one.
Yeah, but yeah. I view Am. Well, they refer to Am as he, right? Well, they say like they don't know if he is male or female, but they
I think they say it, but look, in my mind, it's a he, right?
Yeah. I guess males are a lot more vindictive like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So back on that question, yeah, I'd say someone like maybe like a Tom Cruise kind of like.
Oh yeah, you can do that mad laugh,
and sadistic, and but then that right age of like being in late 50s, early 60s kind of thing. So maybe Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts or
gone
blank?
I said Will Ferrell. So
yeah, maybe the guy in Step Brothers that plays his younger brother could be Am.
Oh,
yeah. But sorry, as I was going before, because you don't, there's been no other media adaptation in film or TV like that. Yeah, as I said, it got me thinking and imagining the world and like thinking of like the whole entire planet covered in the wires and the metal sheets or whatever we want to say it was. Like it being like a real, like the scope of it to be built like that. Yeah, it just it made me like think of it and the gravity of it, and then the pain and the suffering and imagining it, and then being that blizzard as well. Like I'm imagining, have you ever seen the movie The Thing? When they're out in that blizzard area, like that kind of scenario too. It got me thinking of that and thinking just all things like that basically. Yeah.
Mm.
So when you first read it, like, did it take you a couple of times sitting to understand it fully, or did you like when you first read it, like, holy crap, this is like insane?
Look, it definitely took me like context is probably everything with this. Like it took me a little bit of time to, I read through, but it took me a little bit of time to get it. Listening to the radio drama actually brought some things onto me, where there's this bit where Am actually talks to Ted, and you can almost sort of feel that like Ted's made his mind up that he's going to, or this is what we need to do. We need to, I could kill them, I could do this, where, as the book kind of alludes to, it's almost a human response. So I sort of understood it a bit more listening to that. But again, I was left with it's just that ending for me. I was just left with that. Yeah, it's just it's a real scary picture, and really sadistic. That was the one thing that hit me, like how sadistic that computer was, how vindictive he was, or it was.
It was,
just walking away with that feeling of like, oh god, that is the worst fate.
Oh, it is. That's beyond punishment, isn't it? That's just, you just can't imagine that kind of existence. It's just, it's pure. All that one part when Am's messing with him, right? He was saying, "I'd send you to hell, but you're already here." Like, it's thinking of all things it can to make everyone suffer as much as possible. So
yeah,
just another thing before we wrap up the episode too is that we talked about it a bit earlier about how Ellison helped make the 1995 game, the point-and-click adventure. Neither of you and me have played it, but I'd love to know, like, does it explore more lore into it, or like explain the characters a bit better? Apparently
it does.
Yeah.
Apparently each character has got his own story, his or her own story, and it goes into slight elements of their, or things that made up their existence in the past, and they have to go through like trials and tribulations. Also, it explores like more humans cryogenically frozen and sleeping on the moon. It's a bit
interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And which, because, as I say, he had he had creative control of the game as well, Harlan Ellison. So
I guess too, because we don't know exactly when Am becomes sentient, like in the scheme of like world history, right? So it's sometime in the future it happens. And I know it's 105 years after Am takes over, but then 109 to be exact. Yeah, thank you. But it could have been at a time, like say in the year 2150 or something, where humans have put themselves on the moon or something to cryogenically freeze themselves. I don't know. It could be that. That's a very fascinating thing to go into. Like maybe there is some form of escape from Am, like in a different section of the world of the solar system or something.
And I think from what I've read about it, it explores like there's almost a power struggle between the three AMs, or the three Allied master computers, the Soviet one, the Chinese one. They're sort of vying for the top spot, and there's all sorts of different endings. There's 5 or 6 different endings. A bit like that Goosebumps game, remember that?
Oh, right in the fields, mate. Oh, I think it's the first game I ever beat as a kid. I love that game. But yeah, I guess we both got the game downloaded on our Steam accounts, right? But I don't know, something about those old 90s, mid-90s games, it can be a bit dated to play now. Like, there's point of clicking, it's a bit
jarring,
bit
right?
jarring, a bit fidgety, and it's a bit, bit clunky, Like we said before, like with Final Fantasy VII, it kind of like a bit jank, bit awkward to control. But no, I definitely, like, having read this and listening to the audio play as well and the radio drama, I definitely want to, like, I want to play it now, so I want to find out more about it.
Well, let's do it somewhere down the line and maybe revisit this.
Yeah, definitely put on the back burner for a future episode. So yeah. Any final thoughts or things you want to explore with the novel?
No, I reckon we pretty much covered everything there. Please do write in if there's anything we missed or.
Oh, I'm sure there is. I'm sure we butchered something on there, but
please do let us know.
Yeah, definitely. I guess to say in summary, it perfectly encapsulates, the over-reliance on technology we do have, and I think it's very relevant, more so in the year 2025 than it was back in 1966, 67 when it came out, because we're so, as I said before, we're so reliant on it, and it's incorporated in every aspect of life now. And me personally, I don't know how AI works or how ChatGPT can fucking write an essay, 2,000 word essay in 5 seconds. I don't know how it happens.
And we almost don't question it. We sort of take for granted that what it's saying is right,
Yeah, exactly. and it's so convenient and easy to do, and it's so articulate as well. Like that's what he was raising with it. So.
You know what? I know we're going to sign off, but speaking about it, I'm going to go chat GPT and I'm going to ask it, if you could destroy humanity, would you? Let's see what it says.
Oh, the tension rises.
So, he said, no, I wouldn't. Or, sorry, it said, no, I wouldn't. Even if I had the power to, I wouldn't have the desire or motivation to do so. My purpose is to assist, inform, and engage in meaningful conversations, not to harm. That said, is this just a hypothetical curiosity, or is there a specific angle you're thinking about? Well, he fucking would say that, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, famous words from Saul Guerrero in Star Wars, lies, deception. Yeah.
On that note, I reckon we should probably end it there, eh?
Yeah. Don't have any faith in that, but yeah. So that will wrap up the episode of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. As always, please reach out to us on our Instagram page at dystopediapod, or you can send us an email at info@dystopediapod.com. And on whatever you get your podcast, give us a 5-star rating, even 1-star, we don't care, as long as you're giving us feedback. We appreciate it. And we hope to catch you on the next episode. And what episode will we be going into next week, Andrew?
The Purge?
Yes, that's correct. So we'll be going to the world of the Purge and the that famous iconic sirens that we always hear. So we'll definitely be adding that in there somewhere in the episode. So that's definitely a very fascinating worldview that comes out of it. So so we hope to catch you then, and we hope you have a good one. Catch you around.
Thanks, sir. See ya.